Hello, everybody. How are you? Welcome to day number 3 of the 5-day challenge of making 2020 your epic year. So today is all about relationships. So first of all, I am incredibly grateful for all of you who are participating. You guys have been doing such a fabulous job commenting and sharing so vulnerably what is happening when you dig deeper into what you want to create. And I am so proud of you all for doing that. Hi, Karen. The more you participate, the more you are going to get so much more out of this series. And also, trust me, you're also going to be helping some other people in the group because we're all on this journey together. Some of you have asked me, like, oh my God, like you are so together. Like, do you not have any of these issues? No, I absolutely do. I might be just a few steps ahead or something like that, but everyone has stuff that comes up. And for me, my fulfillment comes in sharing this journey and sharing with you what's possible. And that's one of the things I want you to take away from this whole series is that anything is possible. Anything that you want is possible. When your heart desires something, it means that the universe wants to give it to you, okay? And it just means that certain things have to be maybe cleared out of the way, like you clear a cobweb when you go into a new room that hasn't been used in a while, and then you can make the room as beautiful as you want, right? So, are you ready for day number 3 for relationships? Relationships is one of my favorite topics to talk about. So many of you know that I've been a couples therapist for 20 plus years, and relationships is really my jam. And, one of the reasons I love relationships is because, when I would work with couples, I'm not the kind who would be like moderating what one person is saying to the other. That's not how I did it. I actually invited each person to go inwards and join in looking in their own journey, because intimacy is into me I see. Into me I see. Contrary to what most people do, which is like, you did this and you did that, it starts with you. It starts with the relationship you are creating with yourself. And when you get clear about that, it's very easy then to ask for your needs. And that's what we're going to be digging into today. All right. So I'm going to be focusing on intimate relationships today, but you can apply this to any relationship in your life, anything. All right. So what do you desire? I'm sorry, I was burning some sage. Just a minute. It is starting to get a little out of control here. Look at this. I was burning some sage and now it's going completely out of control. So I am going to just give me 1 second, guys. Sorry about this. I don't want the smoke alarms to go off. And my daughter is sleeping. And I'm just going to pour some water on this. It'll stop in a second. Pardon me. Unexpected. There you go. All right. That's going to stop in a second. All right, so what do you desire? We're going to start with that. What kind of relationship do you desire in your life? Now, most of the time what we don't think about this at all. We think about what is missing in our life. We think about what we don't have, but we rarely ever think about what do I really want, all right? So start to just let that thought percolate in your mind. What do I want? And if it's harder to do that, just take a piece of paper and start to write down, what kind of relationship do I desire? Now, this is also going to be for someone who is in a relationship, and this is also for people who are not in relationships but want a very good, healthy, happy relationship. All right. So here's one thing that I've uncovered throughout my work with couples, and also I'm going to give you some resources at the end. We find our partners unconsciously, and we usually find them because our partners fulfill some need in us. However, that sounds so unsexy, but that is often the reason why we find our partners, because We're looking for a need to be met, an unmet need. And when you get this concept really well, it's going to help you make a choice of how you want to show up in your relationship. All right. And, I often joke, like I tell Assad and I have been married for 20 years. And he is literally the mother I never had. Or a parent that I never had. That's how I joke about him, because he was really like, he was this person who met so many of my needs, and I didn't know it back then, right? Like, you just like, oh, I'm in love, whatever. But it's not. It's very unsexy. It's really about some need that's not being met. And here's what also happens. The same thing that attracts us to our partners also causes us distress. So the very same thing that is like very attractive to you at some point turns around. And unless you work on it together or by yourself, it's going to keep perpetuating. Now, this is another piece to remember. I'm going to throw you so many nuggets. Like, if you need a piece of paper to write all these things down, please do. When it comes to our partners, they will never be able to fulfill all our needs. No, not happening. They're not going to fulfill all our needs. And that's a hard pill to swallow, because we want our partners to be this everything for us, and they are not, and they never can be, and they never will be. And so how do you work on a relationship then, right? Why are we in a relationship? So here's a few nuggets that I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you 2 pointers, and see if you can let this sink in, because these 2 things is filled with so much information that will help you create the relationship you want. First of all, intimacy, into me I see, which means you need to value yourself. You need to make sure that you appreciate yourself. And is there a part of you that doesn't value you? I was just working with a client today, and one of the things that we uncovered was how much he doesn't love himself, how much of his entire life he has spent thinking that something is wrong with him. He's unlovable. He said to me, he looks in the mirror, the first thing he says to himself is, all kinds of faults, all kinds of criticism. And this is not uncommon. This is not just him. This is so many of us. What is the first thing you tell yourself when you get up and look at yourself in the mirror? Oh, I have puppy eyes. I look like this. I don't look good. Oh, I look so fat. What do you tell yourself, right? The first thing you see in yourself in the mirror. Do you value yourself? This is so important, because if you do not value you, guess what? Your partner is not going to value you. It's not going to happen. And the second piece, so this is the first one, value yourself, appreciate yourself, love yourself. It sounds so freaking cliche, but love yourself. Love yourself. So the number 2 point, this is, again, very important in a relationship. When you're in a relationship, this will make a lot of sense to you. People become what you think they are. What do I mean by that? People become who you think they are. The literal meaning is, if you think your partner is uncaring and doesn't love you, and then he or she is always going to be that way. They're not going to, anything that they do, you're going to look at it from that lens. And so you're going to see what you think they are. If you think they're uncaring, say they forget to call you, you're going to think that they're uncaring. You're not going to think like, oh, maybe he was busy. Maybe she had a very important meeting all day. You're going to look at it from that lens. That's one part of this, think about like a 2-prong. People become who you think they are. The second piece of this is when you, the story you have about your partner, right? Like whatever story you've created about your partner, that gets reinforced every time. So for example, right? How do you shift that? So I want you to experiment with this. If this is you, right? If you have this notion of your partner not doing certain things or being a certain way, I want you to start to pay attention to these things. How, for example, like when I'm looking at my notes, I kind of lost my train of thought. So next time, for example, say you have this thing that your partner always forgets certain things in the grocery store. This is a real example. A client told me about this. So they would get into these petty arguments um, after her husband came home from the grocery store, and he'd be like, she'd be like, you didn't buy this, you didn't do this, and he would be like, I can never make you happy. And this was their argument constantly, right? So she assumed that he's not going to buy certain things, that he's going to fail, and he failed. So this is something that I want you to pay attention to. How does that play out in your life? Do you do that? Do you do that to your partner? How does it play out? All right. So I want you to really pay attention to these two concepts, because that's going to help change your relationship. So I'm just going to read the comments. Karen is saying, it makes so much sense. Yes, I really appreciate that, Karen, and love yours. So people become who you think they are. I'm so glad that this resonates for you. And if you're watching the replay, again, share these things, because this is a lot of, I know I'm throwing so much information at you, but I really want you to absorb this of making your life different. So this is the homework for today, right? Pick a trigger in your life. Pick a trigger. Pick something that your partner does that triggers you. Okay, so instead of saying, I wish my partner wouldn't do that, I wish he or she wouldn't say this or do that, start to drop into, whoa, I'm getting triggered by this. Why is this a trigger? So the same client about the grocery store, right? So when I dug deeper with her, one of the things that we had uncovered even previously that was, there's a lot of control issues that was coming up through this form. She wanted help, but then she would get the help, but then it wouldn't be exactly what she wanted it to be. And then it becomes this control issue. Control comes from fear. Fear comes from a lot of different, you can dig deeper into fear. Fear has so many prongs. But this is something you can just start to pay attention to. Put on the curiosity hat. Thanks, Karen. Put on the curiosity hat. What am I getting triggered for? Why am I getting triggered with this? Okay. And I know we're kind of just jumping onto the surface. We're not going deep into stuff, but I want to just give you these small little nuggets that you can start to work with right now. So because the more you put on the curiosity hat, the more you can start to see, how are you playing a role in this, right? So because when you get irritated or when you get frustrated with your partner, it's often because it's a need that hasn't been met. And when there's a need that's not being met, that is how it shows up in the outside, okay? So when you're put on the curiosity hat, you can understand that need. And when you get that need, you can then express it to your partner, because otherwise it's going to come out as that blame, whatever, you're not doing this right, you're not doing that right. That's how it's going to come out. But when you understand that need, either you can ask for that need to be met by your partner, or you know that they're not going to meet it and you let it go. All right. So that is a really important piece for you to remember, that whenever you get triggered, there's often a need that's not being met. So this is the other piece. When you can really understand that and you can really meet your own need, not like, I'm going to go do it for my own self, but even if you can just acknowledge that for yourself, oh, I have this need, this is so important for me, I think it starts to settle down in your system. Yeah. All right. So, for example, I was going to give you an example of I have a client, and she always, this falls into a need not being met. She always wants flowers, and her partner is very absent-minded and never remembers to buy her flowers. And they've been together for like 10 years or something like that, and never remembers. And it always irks her. And for her, the conclusion she's done is like, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about me, doesn't care about what I need. But that's not the case. That's a key, he's in a different space. But when we dug deeper, again, she was able to say that it is about feeling loved. That's how she loves to feel loved. And for her partner, the way he liked to be loved is in a very, very different way, which is more verbal. So her love language was more gifts and his was more verbal. So once they uncovered that, right, it was very easy to work through this stuff. And the reason I'm bringing these examples to you so that you can understand, like, how are you doing this? Like, if you have a need, are you expressing it, or are you getting annoyed and frustrated by that? So the homework for you is, where are you getting triggered in your relationship, and what is the need that is not being met? Okay. So this is something I want you to write down so you have an understanding of that. And then leave that paper aside. Don't put it in your journal. In your journal, I want you to start to envision the relationship that you desire. What does that look like in your life? If you're already in a relationship, what would make you feel more fulfilled in a relationship? Is it, what kind of love language do you want to feel loved? How can you love yourself? Like, how can you bring that into the picture? Is it having more sex? Is it more date nights? Like, how does that look like in your life? Start to write that down in your vision book. And also post, not post, write down, if you're not in a relationship, what is the relationship that would make you feel very fulfilled? And start to see, like, how can you start playing out with that in your life right now? Meaning, if you have a desire to be loved a particular way, how can you invite that into your life right now? And if any of this is not making sense to you, please let me know, because I know I'm covering it from a very bird's eye viewpoint. We're not diving deep in. So when you do this exercise, think about, like, if you had a magic wand and if you could wave it, what would you write in your vision book? And again, use your collages, use your markers to really make it, like, make it so inviting that when you look at that page, you're like, wow, I'm so excited to be in this relationship. Okay, Rebecca's asking, can you give an example? Can you give an example? Can you elaborate on what example, Rebecca? Sometimes it's a delay in what I'm saying and then the comments popping up. So what specifically are you looking for an example for? So as how to bring the love you want on right now. Like, I think, thank you for that clarification. So basically, it's like what I was saying ahead in the first part of this whole thing about, your partner can only meet certain needs, and it starts with you. It starts with who do you value yourself? Do you love yourself? So if you have a specific way of being loved, can you show that to yourself? So the place, like, I would start with is, like, when you get up in the morning and look at yourself in the mirror, what do you say to yourself? How can you bring on that way of loving yourself? And say, if you like flowers, I gave you the example of my client, can you buy flowers for yourself? Can you honor and respect yourself? Because when you do that to your own self, it will open up so much for you to receive. And you'll also notice where you're cutting yourself off in the relationship, whether it's in a current one or a relationship that you would like, because chances are, like, we repeat patterns. That's just human conditioning. We repeat patterns in our life. And if there's a need that hasn't been met in your life from the past, it's going to come into this current relationship. And so the more understanding you have of your own self and where you're operating from, it'll help you get to a different place in the relationship. I'm glad you got that. Thank you, Rebecca. So I want to give you some resources that will be very, very helpful for you guys. There are 3 books that I'm going to recommend. I'm going to put them in the notes. Getting the Love You Want. It's a really good book. It has some religious connotations. Just ignore that if you're not religious. 5 Love Languages. I really like that. And the last one is You Are the One You've Been Waiting For. It's a little dense. You are the one you've been waiting for. I love that book because that signifies everything that we've been talking about. You want you. Like, when you can wrap your head around loving yourself completely, it's going to really attract the amazing relationship that you want in your life, including the one that you already have. It will transform. And I say that because, Asad and I have been together for 20 years, and I don't talk about this very much, but in like 10, 11 years ago, like, we were not in a good place at all. We were not in a good place. We didn't have any kids. We could have totally gone our own separate ways, but we used that 1 year when we were apart to, like, really work on ourselves. And then it brought us back together, and we didn't have to, but it's no one is immune to this. Like this stuff is so deep, like their needs are so deep, and sometimes we don't even know what we want, and it gets reflected back in relationships, and no one is immune to it. It's really like, are you willing to put in the work, even if your partner is not willing to put in the work? When we started, he wasn't ready to put in any work, but I wanted to have something different and better. And so when I worked on myself, it gave him an opportunity also to work on himself. And then things changed. I mean, I couldn't have imagined the current relationship that I'm in based on what we were at back then. And I don't talk about it because he's very private, and he's not the kind of person who's going to go around sharing stuff like that. I don't care, because I'm like, this is real life. It happens. Shit happens in our lives. So what? Like, we work through it. To me, it's like very empowering to feel like, we were able to work through that stuff, and we got to a very different place. And it's so amazing. To me, it's very inspiring. Our relationship looks nothing like it did back, when we were, we got together when I was so young. It looks nothing like that anymore, because we grow, and if we don't grow together, it's not going to work out, right? And so thank you, Rebecca. Thank you. Things happen in everybody's life, and so those are the things. Those books really invite you to do that. And if you have any specific questions, please post them, and please share, like when you do your vision book, or when if you have any insight that came in for you, please share in the comments, because I'm sure it's going to really help other people too. And also, the more I want you to participate, because I want to give that abundance book and the Amazon gift card to someone. I want them to win. So please share and talk. Oh, Rebecca saying that I buy flowers for myself. I love that. I'm so glad, Rebecca. That is so great. Like, that's really honoring yourself. And that is being we start with honoring ourselves, right? All right, so that brings us to the end of today, which is relationships. And tomorrow we're going to be addressing health stuff. Health is another favorite topic of mine, because health is the foundation of everything. If you have health, you have everything in life. Health is wealth. So I'm so excited to bring that. And lastly, before we close, people have asked me how they can work with me. And I'm opening up 10 slots of one-on-one coaching for next year. And I'm going to keep it open until end of this year. I mean, they open to sign up to work with me. Again, I don't like bringing this stuff up when we're doing this, because I just want to give. I want you all to get so much from these 5 days. But, I got some PMs and DMs asking like, oh, how can we work with you? So I want to at least share that. I won't be doing anyone any service if I don't share that information. So if you feel called to seeing if this is a good match for me, like it has to feel like a good match. It has to feel like we are good, compatible with each other to do this work. Because it's not easy. The work requires some deep dive, and I go deep dive with people, and I want to make sure that you're ready for that. So if it feels like it, please get on a discovery call with me. Even in that discovery call, I help people get transformation, even in those 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be long, drawn out. This is one of the reasons I quit therapy, because I don't think people and I don't have time for like going for years and years into doing this work, because it doesn't need so much time. All right, that's it for today. I will talk to you guys tomorrow at 3 p.m. I'm so excited for health stuff. You got this, people. You got this. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.